Hello everyone, this is Meera K. I secured All India rank 6 in Civil Service Examination 2020. I am from Thrissur, which is part of Central Kerala. I did my graduation in Mechanical Engineering from Government Engineering College, Thrissur. Thereafter, I worked with L&T Technology Services for a year, which I quit in 2017 December to start preparing for civil services. My family consists of my father, my mother and my younger sister. This is my 4th attempt in civil services. I did my preparation from Trivandrum, which is the capital of Kerala, from some private institutes there, and I had some awesome mentors too. And Delhi Knowledge Track has been very instrumental in my preparation because I got to hear the first-hand experience of many toppers, especially for the interview program, and it has helped me a lot. So I am very grateful for sharing my experience with the viewers of DKT. Now coming to my preparation strategy, before discussing individual strategies for prelims, mains and interview, there are certain things which are common for all the different parts of this examination. The basic fundamentals of this examination lies with the NCERTs and the current affairs. So for NCERTs from class 6 to class 12, most of the NCERTs are to be covered, and I made detailed notes of all the particular NCERTs involved. Many people keep asking us whether we should take notes from it. So I find personal notes very useful because just before the prelims or mains, if I have a note of class 6 to 12 geography, say, I can revise it in 1 or 2 hours, the whole 6 to 12 NCERTs. So I used to make detailed notes of all the major NCERTs. Coming to the current affairs part, I read the Indian Express for my current affairs, but you can read the Hindu also. Any major leading national dailies are preferred for this. And another part is the current affairs booklet. Again, we have a lot of booklets available in the market. So any major national institutes booklets, monthly booklets can be followed for the current affairs compilations. And similarly, nearing the prelims, we'll get compilations of all your current affairs, especially the schemes that were released in the particular year, etc. So this can also be followed. So this is the basic fundamentals, that is the NCERTs and the current affairs. Now we have to deal with a lot of specific standard textbooks. For example, for history, we'll use Spectrum, for polity, Lakshmikant, and for environment, Shankar IAS environment booklet was what I used, and for economics I used Shankar Ganesh. So the basic textbooks can also be covered. I didn't have any particular strategy for science and tech and other small bits and pieces of topics for prelims and mains, etc. So this I'll be covering in detail in the coming individual sessions.
I am from Delhi. I have graduated from Sri Ram College of Commerce in 2019. And I enrolled in the Dreams 400 scholarship of Lukman IAS, in which I studied GS in 2019-2020 batch, and I studied all the subjects, polity, economics, ethics, and the faculty here, Ansari sir and Lakshmikant sir and other teachers as well. They are all very good, and they are very motivating as well as encouraging. So yes, it has been a very important part of my UPSC journey, being associated with Lukman IAS, and rest is that thank you so much. I would thank Ansari sir for his constant guidance, starting from the prelims phase till the interview phase, and that's it from my side. Thank you.
Coming to my prelim strategy, again for prelims there are two parts. One is the static subjects and the current affairs. Again for the static, as I mentioned earlier, my primary resources were the NCERTs and the standard textbooks like Spectrum, Lakshmikant, etc. I didn't take any notes out of Spectrum or Lakshmikant. This I used to revise 2 or 3 times just before the prelims. Similarly, I used to refer to the static part of the current affairs. For example, let's say there is some parliamentary session happening and some news related to 0 hour is there in news. I used to refer to the basic funda behind all these happenings. So the static part of the dynamic current affairs again I think is very important in dealing with prelims and mains also. Now coming to the question papers, I did some 50 to 60 question papers just before the prelims, the 2 months preceding the prelims. I learned this from one of my seniors that if you do 10,000 questions, that is 100 question papers, you'll easily crack the prelims. So this year I tried it and it worked for me. I even cleared the Forest Service cutoff. So I think this can be something, this is something that you can follow. Similarly, again, we have only 2 weeks left for the prelims now. What you can do is that you can revise. Don't read anything new now. Just revise everything that you've learned. Try to do as many full tests as you can and try to take it in the 2-hour gap and try to take it during the exact time of the prelims, I think from 9 to 11, so that you can get a hang of how you are going to perform during the day of your prelims. During your prelims, just make sure that the previous day you have all your hall tickets, your pen, your ID card, everything ready, and you reach the venue at least some 15-20 minutes before time. You eat a good breakfast and you have enough water with you. Just make sure that you're very relaxed and trust your preparation. You have worked so hard for this. I think the key to prelims is that you must be confident. If you have some doubt in your mind whether you'll clear it or not, there are high chances that you might not clear it. This is from my own personal experience, because in 2018 I went for the interview and 2019 I missed the prelims by 1 mark. This happened because I was very anxious that I might not clear prelims this time. So just be confident and make sure that you read the question very well, you read the options very well and try to eliminate it and try to work it out. And another thing I think is very important for prelims is that trust your common sense. Do not try to connect it with some random things that you have read but you have not revised. There might be some things which might look familiar but might be wrong in your head. So don't try to recall something which you have read some few years back. Just make sure that you are applying your common sense, and some 40% of prelims can be answered using basic commonsensical understanding, especially from the science and technology and from the current affairs part. So these are certain things that you have to take care for your prelims. Now coming to the main strategy, again my optional was sociology. For the sociology part, I think we'll have a separate session. In detail I'll let you know. Coming to the GS part, for GS1 what I did was for the basic history, again NCERTs and standard textbooks like Spectrum was my major resource. For world history, especially the NCERT was helpful. And for geography, again the only source that I used was NCERTs, and I also used to refer to the current affairs. For example, because cyclones and flooding and especially the disaster related part of geography was very prominent, I used to refer to a lot of online resources to understand how these kind of incidences happen, etc., which are not very clearly given in the NCERTs. But other than that, I didn't use any major resource for geography. One important site which I find very useful is the PMF IAS site, Poor Man's Friend IAS. Their videos were really helpful in understanding conceptual part of the geography. Now coming to the society part, I didn't put any extra effort for society because my optional was sociology, but those who are not having sociology as optional, I would say just read the sociology NCERTs, especially about the Indian sociology. You don't have to read any theory or any thinker perspectives and all, you don't have to do it. Just read the basic NCERTs and just make notes out of current affairs that are related to sociology. For example, society in general, for example on poverty, regionalism, etc. Whenever such issues come or whenever some examples of these issues come in the newspaper, just make sure you are noting it down. So this was my strategy for GS1. And now coming to GS2, the static part, especially the polity part, I used Lakshmikant as my primary resource. I also used to refer to Bare Constitution to understand how exactly it is written in the Constitution. Coming to the governance part and the developmental part of the GS2, I used to make notes for each and every word mentioned in the mains syllabus. So syllabus was my primary pointer and guiding factor, and every keyword that is mentioned, for example governance related, good governance, or any particular word that is mentioned, I used to have a 2 to 3 page note so that I can make a 3-page answer out of it. And I also used to collect examples from the newspapers. So these were 2 things I did in GS2. For international affairs, static, I didn't do anything in particular. The current affairs, everything was covered through the compilation materials as well as newspaper. So these 2 were my primary resources. And IDSA website is something which I find very useful for the international international related topics. So that was my GS2 strategy. Now coming to GS3, again it's a very dynamic topic, too many areas and you do not find everything in a single resource. For GS3 especially, I made note for each and every keyword. So I used to make notes for each and every single topic, and this was tremendously helpful for my mains, because I didn't realize this in 2018 in my second attempt of my first mains, but in my second mains what I realized was 90% of the questions in GS3 is coming from the syllabus itself. Only 10% is coming from dynamic current affairs, which you can't do anything about. I clearly remember in 2018 there was this question about Bose-Einstein statistics and its importance in physics, something like that. So these things you can never prepare for. Some current affair reference might be there, but you might never prepare for it. So that is something you can't do anything about. But 90% of the GS3 can be covered if you make detailed notes out of each and every syllabus keyword. Now, especially for disaster management, I used to refer to the disaster management guidelines that are introduced by the NDMA. That was very useful for me. For the agriculture sector, etc., I did a very dynamic preparation. I used to refer to a lot of materials, a lot of Googling. Google was my primary resource. For static economic part, I did from Shankar Ganesh, and my class notes, I took classes from a private coaching institute in Trivandrum. So the notes were tremendously helpful. For GS4, again in my first attempt, I got a very good score in GS4. I hadn't done a lot of preparation, but I think the basic understanding of the concepts mentioned in syllabus is very important. For example, the thing about GS4 is that everything is very familiar to you, so you might not feel like studying. But when they ask you to write a 2-page answer about emotional intelligence, in that pressure situation, you might not be able to make it out. So I think understanding the basic keywords in the syllabus, especially the first few topics up to the thinkers and philosophers of ethics, these things you can cover using your basic standard textbooks. I used to refer to lexicon for GS4. Now another very interesting and dynamic part of GS4 is the case studies. One thing you can do is try to solve as many case studies as you can. I didn't follow a particular stakeholders, values, that standard approach that's mentioned. I didn't follow it in every case study. In some case studies I mentioned it, but I changed my answer writing pattern according to the demand of the case study. And the thing with ethics is that because it's comparatively long paper, there are more number of questions compared to the other GS 1, 2 and 3, and you have to write more in a more dynamic manner. Completing the question paper is very difficult, so try to do or work out at least 2 to 3 GS4 answers before you approach the mains. Another part of mains is that we all know we all use the same materials. Whatever I say, everything will be familiar to you. But one important part of mains is how you present your answers. Everyone gets the same question, but not everyone writes the same answers in mains. This is what I found makes a difference in your score. So what you can do is that break down the mains answer writing into different parts. So the major part of your mains answer writing is how you comprehend the question and how you understand the demand of the question. So if you have understood the demand of the question, some 70% of your work in answer writing is done. So try to, what I used to do was, you might not be able to write answers every day. So what you can do is take questions and try to brainstorm. So this might be the demand of the question. So if this question comes in mains, I will write these points. So this you have to, this is something that you have to do very quickly. You will get some 10 to 20 seconds to think about an answer, and then you have to present it. So try to improve your thinking speed by using these brainstorming exercises. So this can be done whenever you are taking a break from your studies. You can take some random question, and if you have some answer key for it, it'd be very helpful for you, because you can again check whether your thought process is right. And if you have a peer group, then it will be wonderful if you can do it with your friends. So this is something which I used to do. Another thing about answer writing is how you present your answer. I'm not talking about your handwriting or how calligraphically you can write and all. Your answer should be neat, presentable and legible. I used to follow the introduction, body and conclusion format, and this helps you because you don't have to think about the framework. The framework is already set, so if there is any particular question, I used to pick the keyword out of the question and I used to elaborate it as the introduction, and as a conclusion, again as every topper suggests, try to write an optimistic conclusion. But if it's a very neutral topic, you don't have to forcefully write an optimistic conclusion and all. I used to write a single line, so this is how it is and this can be done, that's it. You don't have to bother a lot about your introduction and conclusion, because that's not what fetch you marks. Your body or how you write the main answer is what fetches you mark. So what you can do is try to break down the question. Every question in mains has some 2 or 3 parts to be written. For example, you will have to, if it's a particular issue based question, you will have to see what is the issue, you have to elaborate it, you have to supplement it with things from the current affairs, and then you have to maybe write a way forward or how to solve it, or maybe you have to write something else about it. So you have to break down the question into subheadings and then present your answer. This is something which I found very useful. Another thing that you can do is think about the keywords for the answer keywords. For example, if it's critically analyzed, what you can do. So I used to write for it the issues associated with it and way forward. Similarly, I used to follow a more or less similar strategy for examine, discuss, and analyze kind of questions, but for elucidate or evaluate etc., I used to follow a different kind of format. So this is something which you can think about, and again, there is absolutely no set way of writing an answer. People who have written in pointers, people have written in paragraphs, everyone has received good marks in mains. So it's all about how well you present it and how you put your point forward and how legible it is. And again, another part of mains is how you manage your time. So this is again something you can work on. If you have good writing speed, you are blessed, well and good. If you do not have good writing speed, what you can do is you can write all the answers that you know very well. In mains there might be some 5-6 questions which you have already prepared for. So this you can write it and try to finish it off in some 5 to 6 minutes, so that the extra minutes that you gain can be used for questions which you have to think and write. And then there might be some question which are absolutely clueless, but I would say that write something in that also. In my mains this year, I have not left a single question. I have written all the questions, I have answered everything. There were some 5 to 6 questions throughout in GS 1, 2, 3, 4 combined, which I didn't have a lot of idea about, but I picked the keywords from the question and I elaborated it, and I provided some conclusion, and whatever I know I wrote it there. So that's it. And again, another thing that I did was I used to fill the page from start to end. I used to fill. I used to leave a more gap between different lines, so that the answer looks very full. But make sure that you're not breaching the margins, because that might fetch you a penalty. And make sure that you're not breaching the word limit in all the answers. In few answers, if you breach the word limit, I think it's okay, but don't make it a pattern. So that's about the GS 1, 2, 3 and 4. Coming to the essay part, in 2018 in my first mains, one mistake that I did was I didn't practice any essay. So the first full essay that I wrote was during the mains, and I scored an average mark in essay, but this year's score has not come, but I think you can make a good improvement if you practice a few essays. So this time I practiced some 2-3 essays on current issues, one on environment, one on women. So these are certain themes that are getting repeated in essay, and I practiced 2 philosophy, some moral quote kind of, I don't remember which I wrote, but I practiced some 5-6 essays, and I also noted down some quotes of famous people, and some I also thought about some anecdotal scenarios that can use as your introduction or as your conclusion. And One thing that is very important in essay is that you think from all the perspectives. So this year I wrote the essay on patriarchy and how it is hidden, how it is affecting the women, something like that the question was. So in my answer, the majority content it was devoted for writing about how patriarchy affects the women folk. But the last few pages I also wrote about how patriarchy affects men, that men are also victims of patriarchy, children are victims of patriarchy. And the other genders, even we have a very binary definition of gender these days, which is again a very patriarchal concept, and how it is affecting the society in general. So instead of focusing on a very unidimensional part of women, I focused it on a lot of areas, which I think has worked for me. Again, only scores will tell if it's come out successful, but I think this can be used. And do not follow the same pattern for two essays. If you are writing a story as introduction for the first essay, don't write the same story as an introduction for the second essay. Try to use a quote or some other dynamic. And again, I forgot to mention this earlier, but for GS 1, 2, 3 and 4, I used to add a lot of diagrams and maps. I drew some 5-6 maps in GS3 I think, and in GS2 also I had a lot of diagrams, hub and spoke diagrams, flow charts, and anywhere I can use a diagram I used, because it gives you two advantages. One is that it helps you concisely put your point forward. The second thing is that it helps you fill up space. So if you don't know anything about the answer, about the question, if you have drawn a diagram, it takes up a lot of space and your answer looks very full. So this is some strategy that you can use. And but please make sure that you're not using some random diagrams which are not relevant, because it will highlight your answer and it will also highlight the flaws in your answer. So that might work against you, but make sure that you're using relevant diagrams and relevant maps. Again, I practice drawing the world map and India map. I am very poor at drawing, but I used to practice it again and again so that I can draw it very quickly during the mains answer writing. So these are certain things I followed. And for the two language papers, I didn't work a lot, because English again both are qualifying and you don't have to study. If your mother tongue is, mine was Malayalam, my language paper, but if it's not your mother tongue or if you're not very familiar with it, I suggest that you can try to solve 2 or 3 previous year papers. Coming to the online resources I used, again as I mentioned in the earlier, DKT was one of my major source for my strategy. I used to refer to a lot of topper videos. It has helped me out especially for the prelims and for the interview. The interview was again I have to say this, the interview videos of DKT was very helpful. I'll mention that later. Now coming to the other resources, again I used to refer to PIB, any particular government scheme or any particular government related issues I am dealing with, I used to Google it, such as the issue space PIB or issue space PRS. So this will directly take you to what the government is trying to actually introduce, and that has helped me a lot. And I also used to go through the ministry websites every now and then, so that I can understand which scheme or which part of the ministry is being highlighted, and this might potentially come as a question also. So this is one thing I used to do. Coming to the institute materials that I used to refer to Vision IAS material, Vision monthly compilations, as well as a PT 365 and their mains 365 is something which I have followed very throughout my preparation cycle, and I have found it very helpful. Again, for geography and environment related current affairs, I used to refer to GK Today also in addition to Vision IAS. But I think any good compilation can be used as your primary resource. Again, Yojana and Kurukshetra, I have not read it. Every monthly magazine I never read it. Whenever I could find one, I used to skim through it, but I never read it from cover to cover. Another resource which I have used extensively is there are some websites. For example, there is Vikaspedia, there is Arthapedia, etc. This has been tremendously helpful for topics that are related to GS3. Again, I used to do a lot of Googling, even Wikipedia I used to refer. You don't have to read the whole thing and all, just take what you need, make note out of it and forget it. You don't have to go back to the site again. So once you've prepared all your notes, I never refer to any other resources online, because again you'll be flooded with a lot of materials, and it's not humanly possible to refer to all the resources. So take your syllabus keywords, make notes using online resources, and then don't go back to the resources again, just revise your notes. This was my strategy for online note making and online resources. Coming to time management and my daily schedule and daily routine, I am a kind of person who never followed a particular routine, and again this has been a long journey. It's been 3 years now, so it has changed according to the time and needs. But I used to make sure that I study for some 4 to 5 hours every day. Again, not in a continuous manner. In half an hour or 1 hour I'll sit and then I'll do something else. So like that, 4 to 5 hours is fixed for every day. And then some 3 months before the prelims, and again between the prelims and mains, I used to devote a lot of time for preparation. Some 8 to 9 hours I used to do. I never did the 13 hour, 14 hour or 15 hour sessions. I don't know how people do that, and I personally don't think it's humanly possible also. But if you're doing it, well and good, and I admire you for that. Yeah. Now coming to time management, many people ask me how to read the newspaper in 1 hour or less than an hour. I used to take 2 hours for the newspaper. Even before my interview also, I used to spend some 1.5 to 2 hours on newspaper. Again, I think this is very essential, because when you're reading the newspaper, you're not just reading the news, you're reading the background of it. You have to understand the context of it. I'll give an example. There was this Afghanistan issue very prominently in news these days. So it's not just about what is happening in Afghanistan now. It's all about what happened in Afghanistan. So that will take you to history. So there was this great game, and there was the Anglo-Afghan wars happening. So a question in history might come from there. Similarly, there is the geography of Afghanistan, how it is connected to the INSTC, or how it is linking India to Central Asia. So a geography question might come. So you have to know about it. The internal security issues of India from Afghanistan, or because of the current developments in Afghanistan, they might ask you. So all these things you cannot do from a single article. And so whenever such an issue comes, I used to go do a lot of background research, and I think this will take a lot of time, and I think spending some 2 hours on newspaper is worth it in your preparation cycle. Again, there are some people who say that they can't understand the editorials and all. I think it takes some time to get used to the editorials. Again, if you're not following it, there are a lot of newspaper explanatory videos available. Please don't replace the videos, replace your newspaper with the videos. Use the videos to help you understand what is written in the editorial. That's all. Again, my timetable, I didn't have an hourly timetable. I used to make syllabus wise, or topics to be covered in a particular day, week and month, and most probably it will not be, I will not stick to it also, but then it keeps changing. But I used to have a rough sketch in my mind that I have to finish this within the next 2 weeks, and if it's lagging behind, I used to put some extra hours, and if it's moving way ahead of schedule, I used to take a break and watch a movie or read a book. So this is something you can follow. Or if you're somebody who makes daily fixed timetables, I think again that's very good. To each people, this journey is different, and you can have your own strategy. So that's again about my timetable and my schedule. Again, because of Corona, we got a lot of extra months, so that made my schedule a bit more relaxed, but that might not be the case for the next year, because you hardly have a lot of time between this prelims and mains. So you can plan accordingly, according to the time you have and the months you have. Coming to the do's and don'ts of this examination, I think there are nothing called some fixed strategy or fixed do's and don'ts. What might work for some person might not work for the others. So you have to figure it out what works for you. But in general, I think the major do is that you have to understand your syllabus, you have to understand the examination pattern, and you have to have your own strategy. Please do not blindly follow any topper strategy or any particular faculty or any mentor, because everyone is talking from their perspective. You are the one who knows you the best. So you understand your strengths, weaknesses, and wherever you are lacking or wherever you have an edge, and plan or make your own strategy accordingly. And I think this is the biggest do. And do read the newspapers, the basic NCERTs, and cover all the standard materials available. Coming to the biggest don't, I think don't take this examination very lightly, or any stage of this examination lightly. For example, I've seen people taking the essay paper or the language paper lightly, and I've seen people taking the CSAT paper lightly, and I've seen a lot of tragedies happening because of that. And even I am a victim of these things, because in my 2018 I took the interview very lightly. I thought that I can say I don't know if I don't know something, and I can come out unharmed. But then what happened inside the interview hall was something totally different. So please don't take any stage of this examination lightly. Give it a lot of respect and give it its due time, and always be humble before this examination, because if you're humble and if you're respecting the system and the process, I think it will reward you. So that is one thing. And another don't is that don't follow anybody blindly, because again, any strategy videos or any sessions that you have, it is completely from a very different perspective and very different, it is coming from a very different place. You might not be there, you might be a working aspirant, you might be a mother or a father, or you might be having different challenges and different opportunities. So make sure that you understand your situation very well and mold and create your own strategy. Coming to my interview strategy, I've given 2 interviews. My first interview was in the 2018 examination, and that interview I scored an average mark. I scored 165. I think I made a lot of mistakes in that interview, because one thing, I was not at all prepared on the current affairs part, because my interview was some 2-3 months later from the results, and I had some personal issues at home, and I completely neglected the current affairs part. And when I went to the interview board, the board was very cordial, but they kept asking me some issues from current affairs, and I couldn't answer anything. And no matter how prepared you're there to say I don't know, if you keep on saying I don't know, it might reduce your confidence and it might affect your performance. And I think that was an issue in my first interview. Another issue was that I didn't think a lot when I was filling the DAF. I was very eager to show my achievements, and I was very eager to project myself as a very dynamic and a very vibrant person, that I kept on adding a lot of hobbies and a lot of achievements. And in the end, I couldn't cover everything very well, or I couldn't give each and every topic the respect that it deserves. So this time, what I made a change in my interview preparation was the DAF. I kept it very light. I didn't add a lot of hobbies. I just kept 2 major hobbies, and I kept only 1 or 2 of my achievements and positions held. I didn't fill the page, so that it was very easy for me to prepare on these topics. And I extensively researched, and I extensively worked on my DAF, and I contacted the people associated with the organizations mentioned in my DAF. I went to the ministry websites, and I made a very thorough research about my background and about the place, the district I come from, my state, etc. So this is something that I did differently for this year's interview. And the current affairs, this time I made sure that I read the newspaper thoroughly to the day of the interview. The morning I woke up I had my interview in the morning session, so I woke up at 6 o'clock. I read the e-paper, and then I went for the interview. So I think this gave me a lot of confidence. I don't know if my marks will be better this time, I'm not sure. But then my experience, or my own gut feeling, or my overall analysis of the interview is that it's much better than the first interview that I gave. Coming to some interesting questions that was asked, in my 2018 interview I had a lot of interesting questions. Maybe because I had one of my hobbies as quizzing. They asked me how many nautical miles are there from Andaman and Nicobar Islands to the nearest international sea route, and could you tell us some countries that has the word Guinea in it, and could you tell me the capitals of it, and a lot of factual questions like this came, and I answered it with I don't know. I kept on saying I don't know. I think they were trying to put me in a spot, or they were trying to pressure me, and I think it worked. So I don't think it makes any difference to them if you know the capital of Papua New Guinea or not. But if you are getting stressed, and if it's reflecting on your approach to the question, then that might act negatively against you. So this is something you can be very careful. This interview, my interview was a very cordial experience. I think UPSC has made all the interview. I have never heard anyone having a stress interview this time. Maybe because of the corona pandemic and the difficulties that we faced. My interview this time, I got Manoj Soni sir board. And my first question itself was, because my name is Meera, do you know who Mirabai is and what is her historical relevance? And because I'm a student of sociology, can you sociologically analyze the importance of Mirabai? So that was my first question from Manoj Soni sir. And then from there it went very well. They asked me about farm mechanization, about the recent IPCC report that was released and the climate change crisis that we are facing, about the entry of women in NDA. And because I'm a mechanical engineer, they asked me about women in mechanical engineering and what was your experience and all. And there were a lot of interesting areas that was covered in the interview. Last question again was asked by Manoj Soni sir. So what he asked me was, okay, let's come back to Mirabai. He asked me, do you want to change your name? And if so, I'll give you 3 choices, pick one. And he gave me the options Yashoda, Rukmini and Radha, and he asked me to pick one. So I said I'll like to keep my name because it's a part of my identity, but if I have to definitely pick one, I'll pick Yashoda. And I was preparing to defend why I picked Yashoda, but he never asked me why. He said, okay, your interview is over, you can leave now. So that was my interview experience this time. Both the interviews that I went, UPSC was very extremely kind and very welcoming. They make sure that you are very comfortable, that even if you forgot to take some documents with you, they'll not stress you out. I'm not saying that you should forget it. Make sure that you have all your documents with you, but they make sure that you're very comfortable. They even give you refreshments, tea and all that, so that you have a very relaxed and calm state when you enter the interview hall. So this was my interview experience. Now coming to the mock test and mock interview, I think it's a very important, very crucial part of your preparation. Again, as I mentioned, I gave a lot of tests for the prelims because I failed the 2019 prelims by 1 mark. I had this insecurity in mind that I might not be able to clear prelims again. So I practiced a lot of questions. Even in Telegram, in many groups, they'll give you a lot of questions where you can do the polling. So I used to do that. Every time I get some free time, I used to work some questions out. So this has worked very well for me, and this time, as I said, I've cleared with the Forest Service cutoff. So I think practicing prelims mock test series is very important. Again, for every subject, I made sure that I do some 2-3 subject specific tests, and for the most important topics like economy, polity, modern India, etc., I did some 5 to 6 test series, and I revised it also. I made notes out of the answer keys and I revised it regularly. So this was my prelims strategy or prelims mock experience. Coming to the mains, again, answer writing is very important. I did a test series for GS, GS 1, 2, 3, 4. I wrote some 2 question papers each for all the 4 GS papers. I wrote some 5 to 6 essays, and I also practiced my sociology answer writing very extensively. This again I'll be covering in the next session. So this was my mock test for mains. And for interview, last time I gave some 6 to 7 mock interviews, but this time due to the corona constraints that we have, most of the interviews were from Zoom sessions. So I gave only 2 to 3 mock interview sessions and some one-on-one, personalized one-on-one sessions with a few of my mentors. So that was my mock interviews that I gave. Now coming to social media, I never cut off myself from social media because you have this fear of missing out, what they call it. But what I did was that I never used Instagram, but for Twitter and Facebook, I used to follow the ministry pages, the major personalities and the major institutions, for example, World Bank and IMF. All these institutions have their Facebook page and their Twitter. So if you follow all these sites, everything that you get from your current affairs, you can even find the fresh updates from your social media. So the leisure time that I spent scrolling through social media was also adding value to preparation cycle. And then WhatsApp and Telegram I used extensively, because again this year, because we couldn't physically meet with people, I used WhatsApp to create a study group. I had a small study group of 2 to 3 people, and we used to have daily or weekly discussions in that. And similarly, Telegram again is a very important source for a lot of materials, but make sure that you're not referring to a lot of materials for a single topic. For a particular topic, you stick to one particular resource. Don't get overwhelmed by the number of resources you have. You just rationalize it and make your own notes out of it. Coming to the importance of coaching, I wouldn't say that you have to spend a fortune on coaching institutes and materials and all that, but if you have a person to mentor you, it will be very good for you. So find some people whom you trust and who have experience with this examination, and try to follow their advice if you cannot afford coaching. If you can go to some, I went to Trivandrum, I did take coaching. So if you can do that, well and good. Otherwise also, because everything is online these days, in YouTube itself or in Telegram, you can find a lot of wonderful lectures and resources, and this can be used for your to add value to your preparation. But make sure that you understand the examination really well, and for this you can take help from anybody you can get. And please don't hesitate to seek help from others. Reach out to anybody you can. Some people might ignore you, some people might even be rude to you, but you're not losing anything. Just ignore them, and some people might help you out, and it might be fundamental to your preparation. So reach out to people that you can. And again, we have this DKT series which gives you a lot of insight into the topper strategies. Similarly, there are many websites and many YouTube channels that will give you a very good perspective. So that itself is more than enough. But if you feel that coaching can make you a systematic plan, and if you are not very self-motivated or you're not very disciplined yourself, maybe you can go to coaching also. Anything is good. I'm not saying you have to do something and don't do something, because again, as I said, UPSC is a very intensely personal journey, and it might not be the same for everyone. So you can think about your strengths and weaknesses, and you can develop your own strategy there. So again, tips to the people who are doing self-study. First of all, don't worry about it. You might feel that everyone is going to coaching and studying a lot. Nothing like that. There are many people who go to coaching and don't study, and there are many people who sit at home and study very well and get into the top ranks. So don't be insecure that you're not going for any coaching. Try to understand the syllabus, try to understand the examination pattern, and try to use the online resources extensively. And if you can use a online study class material, then again it's very useful. Try to cover all the basic resources and try to give practice tests. So even if you're not taking coaching, maybe you can take a test series somewhere. So that is something that you can do. Even sitting at home also you can do that. General advice to the aspirants. I would say that UPSC, this might be a long journey. You might crack it in the first attempt also, or you might crack it in your 6th attempt or in your last attempt. We can't be sure. So be prepared to deal with it. There might be a lot of times where you'll feel very hopeless, or there might be times when you feel that you can't do it anymore. So when such times come, take a break. Talk to your family or your friends. Watch some web series, watch a movie, read something, and then come back and do it well. Because again, I feel that if you trust UPSC, if you give respect to UPSC and the process, and if you follow everything that is mentioned in the syllabus and mentioned in the if you have a right strategy, you can crack it. And I feel that it will be worth the wait, or worth the effort that you put. So please don't be disheartened if you're facing failures. Even this is my 4th attempt, and I've faced failures for the past 3 times, and even I felt a lot of despair, and I felt like that's it, I don't want to do this anymore. But then because of some luck and some family support, friend support, I continued, and I think it was worth it now that I think back on it. So please don't lose hope. Please keep preparing, and please study hard, and please study smart. So this is one advice. And another thing that I would like to say is that UPSC is something that is very fair to all the aspirants. There are people who say that UPSC is unpredictable, or that the scoring pattern is not transparent. You don't know what is happening in the interview hall, or you don't know what is happening in the answer writing, answer correction, etc. But one thing you have to understand is this uncertainty is common for everyone. It's not like it's transparent for some people and opaque for some others. So everyone is facing the same set of uncertainties, and that makes everyone equal. So you don't have to worry about it. Trust the system. Understand that if you have put the threshold effort, I feel that there is a threshold. If you put effort above that, you'll definitely clear it. Coming to my experience with Delhi Knowledge Track, it has been a very good experience. As I said continuously throughout this session, I have used this material extensively. I have referred to a lot of topper strategy videos, and again, whenever there are two ways in which these help me. One is to help me streamline my preparation, help with my strategy and my answer writing, etc. Other than this, whenever you refer to the toppers and they talk about their journey, about clearing it in the, again as I said, clearing it after a lot of failures, it gave me a lot of hope that I can also do this one day, or even if I'm failing now, I can clear it again later. So it gave me a lot of self-confidence, and it boosted my preparation. So I would like to thank DKT for that. So that's all about my session, about my basic preparation strategy and all. I think I've covered everything in this session. I might have missed out some few points, but I think if you comprehensively refer to other toppers videos also, you'll get a lot of insights. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the people who made it into the list this time, and to the people who missed out this time, again I would say please don't lose hope. I've been in your situation. I've faced failures at different stages of this examination, and I'm sure that you will bounce back and clear it in the coming attempts. I would like to thank DKT for giving me this opportunity to talk to you all. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much.